My daughter canceled my oncologist appointment after a 3-month wait to take her mother-in-law to the spa for 6 hours. I lost that appointment. My cancer advanced. 2 months later, I discovered it wasn't neglect. It was the first step in a calculated plan to steal everything I had built over 42 years of honest work. Before I continue, subscribe and activate the notification bell because we publish new stories every day. Leave a like and tell us in the comments what city and state you're watching from. My name is Leonard Johnson, but everyone calls me Lenny. I'm 67 years old, and for my entire life, I considered myself a man of solid principles. I worked as a civil engineer from the age of 25 until my retirement 7 years ago. I designed and oversaw the construction of bridges, highways, and buildings that are still standing across the state of Georgia. Every dollar I earned was with honest effort, with hands that got dirty with cement, and a mind that solved problems others thought were impossible. My wife, Sarah Williams Johnson, and I raised 2 children, Naomi, who is now 38, and Marcus, who is 35. Sarah passed away in January of 2021 after a long battle with diabetes. Her death devastated us all, but especially Naomi, who had always been very close to her mother, or so I believed. For the 2 years following Sarah's death, Naomi seemed to transform into the perfect daughter. She visited every week, prepared meals, organized my medications, and accompanied me to routine doctor's visits. Marcus, who lives in New York City for his job, called constantly but couldn't be physically present often. I understood his situation and deeply appreciated Naomi's dedication. In November of 2021, she married Trevor Hayes, a 40-year-old man who worked as a financial manager for a mid-sized firm. The wedding was modest but beautiful. Trevor always seemed polite, perhaps a little too interested in conversations about property and investments, but I attributed that to his profession. Everything changed in March of 2023. I started feeling a strange fatigue, unexplained weight loss, and persistent abdominal pain. My primary care physician, Dr. Anya Sharma, ordered blood work and imaging tests. On March 15th, I received the diagnosis no one wants to hear: stage 2 pancreatic cancer. Dr. Sharma was direct but compassionate. She explained that I needed to see a specialized oncologist urgently, stressing that time was crucial in these cases. She referred me to Emory University Hospital, one of the best oncology centers in Atlanta. The reality of specialized medical care, even with good insurance, is that appointments can still take months. I was assigned a date for June 15th, 2023. 3 months of waiting that felt like an eternity. During that time, my symptoms gradually worsened. I lost 17 pounds. The pain intensified. The nights became an inferno of insomnia and anxiety. Naomi knew my situation perfectly well. I showed her all the medical reports, explained the severity of the diagnosis, and expressly asked her to help me with transportation for that crucial appointment, as I no longer felt safe driving with my level of fatigue and the painkillers I was taking. Dad, count on me. This is the most important thing. Mama would want me to take care of you, she told me with tears in her eyes. On June 14th, the day before the appointment, I called her to confirm the time. Don't worry, Dad, I'll pick you up at 8 in the morning. Your appointment is at 9:30. We'll get there with plenty of time, she assured me in a caring voice. I barely slept that night, not out of fear of the detailed diagnosis I would receive, but from a strange sense of hope that I would finally begin the right treatment. On the morning of June 15th, I woke up at 6, showered with difficulty, put on comfortable clothes, and prepared a folder with all my chronologically organized medical reports. By 7:30, I was sitting on the side in my Buckhead apartment, waiting. At 8:15, I was surprised Naomi hadn't arrived. I called her. The phone rang 6 times before she answered. "Hello, Dad." Her voice sounded normal, awake, and unhurried. "Naomi, it's 8:15. Are you on your way?" There was a pause that lasted barely 3 seconds but changed everything forever. "Dad, I'm so sorry, but I won't be able to take you. Something urgent came up with Brenda." Brenda Hayes was her mother-in-law, a 64-year-old woman in perfect health. "What happened? Is she okay?" I asked, genuinely worried. Yes, she's fine. It's just that she has a very important spa appointment she booked months ago, and her car is in the shop. I need to take her. You know how she is. She gets super nervous if she misses these appointments." The world stopped for a moment. "Naomi, my oncology appointment is today. I've been waiting 3 months. It's about my cancer." "I know, Dad, but you can call and reschedule. Brenda has priority today. She's counting on me. You understand, right?" Brenda has priority. Those words were etched into my mind with fire. I didn't yell. I didn't curse. I didn't break anything. I simply said, "I understand," and hung up. There was something profoundly instructive in that moment of absolute clarity. My daughter had just chosen her mother-in-law's beauty treatment over my urgent cancer treatment. The words were there, crystal clear, impossible to misinterpret. There was no ambiguity, no room for doubt. She said exactly what she thought. Brenda had priority. I sat on the sofa for 10 full minutes, staring at the folder with my medical reports. I thought about Sarah. I thought about how we had raised Naomi. I thought about the values we tried to instill in her for 38 years. Then I picked up the phone and called a taxi. It was 8:25 in the morning. Emory University Hospital was about 25 minutes away in normal traffic. I still had a chance to make it. The cab arrived in 8 minutes. The driver, an older gentleman named Sebastian, noticed my difficulty getting into the vehicle. "Are you all right, sir?" he asked, with genuine concern. "I have cancer, and I'm late for my oncologist appointment," I replied simply. He nodded seriously and drove with appropriate urgency, but still respecting all traffic laws. We arrived at the hospital at 9:14. I paid him $45 for a $30 ride and told him to keep the change. "Good luck, sir. God bless you," he wished me. I struggled up to the oncology floor. The receptionist checked the system. "Mr. Johnson, your appointment was at 9:30. You arrived 16 minutes early. But protocol requires checking in 30 minutes prior for registration and medical history preparation. Unfortunately, Dr. Rourke is already seeing the next patient. Your slot has been lost." I tried to explain. I tried to reason. The receptionist, a young woman named Patricia, was polite but firm. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Johnson. I understand your situation, but these are strict department rules. There's a waiting list of months. I can reschedule you for the next available opening." She checked the digital calendar. "I have a gap on August 18th, 2 months from today. 2 more months. 60 additional days with a tumor growing inside me." "I'll take that date," I said in a quiet voice. I returned home in another taxi. During the ride, I didn't feel rage. I felt something much colder, much more dangerous. Absolute clarity. My engineer's mind, trained for decades to analyze structures, identify weak points, and calculate consequences, began to work. Naomi hadn't forgotten my appointment. There had been no confusion of dates. She knew exactly what she was doing. The real question was, why? I arrived back at my apartment near noon, prepared some tea, sat in my favorite armchair, and began to recall, not emotionally, but methodically. I mentally reviewed the last 2.5 years since Sarah died. At first, Naomi seemed genuinely affected and protective. But after her wedding to Trevor in November 2021, subtle changes began. Visits that used to last 3 hours were reduced to 40 minutes. Conversations that were once deep became superficial. And something else. Trevor began asking strangely specific questions about my properties. Lenny, do you still have that lake house at Oconee you bought back in the 90s? Is this apartment in your name, or was it something shared with Sarah? Have you thought about updating your estate plan since Sarah passed? Questions that, at the time, seemed like casual conversation, but which, now under this new light, revealed a pattern. At 3 o'clock that afternoon, my doorbell rang. Mrs. Eleanor Jenkins, my neighbor from the 5th floor, a 72-year-old woman who had lived in the building longer than I had. Ellie and Sarah had been close friends. Lenny, I saw you came back early. Didn't you have your important appointment today? I had told her about the consultation days before. It was canceled, I replied succinctly. Ellie frowned. That's strange, because this morning I saw Naomi drive by here around 9. She was in her car with another older woman, both laughing. I thought maybe they had taken you and dropped you back off quickly. My stomach clenched. You saw them? Are you sure about the time? Completely. It was about 9:05. I was taking out the trash. I waved, but they were talking animatedly and didn't see me. Naomi had passed right in front of my building at 9:05 that morning. The same morning she supposedly couldn't pick me up because she urgently had to take Brenda to the spa. She passed literally in front of my complex with her mother-in-law in the car, laughing, while I was in a taxi desperately trying to get to my oncology appointment on time. Are you all right, Lenny? You look very pale, Ellie observed. I'm fine. Thank you for telling me, Ellie. That afternoon, I did something I had never considered necessary before. I started to document. I took a notepad and wrote down the date, the time, and every detail of what happened that morning. I noted the textual phone conversation with Naomi. I noted Ellie's testimony. I noted the tea cost. I wrote down the driver's name, Sebastian, which I vaguely remembered. As an engineer, I had learned that precise documentation was the difference between a successful project and a disaster. I sensed I would need this information. The next day, Naomi called me. Hey, Dad, how are you? How was your appointment yesterday? Her voice sounded casual, almost carefree. I lost it. I was 15 minutes late. They rescheduled me for August. There was a very brief pause. Oh, what a shame. Well, at least you have another date. It's probably not that serious to wait a little longer, right? Pancreatic tumor. 2 additional months of waiting. And she was saying, it's not that serious to wait a little longer, in the same tone she would use to talk about a salon appointment. Of course, Naomi. It's not serious, I replied, with perfect calm. I hung up and added that conversation to my notebook. Then I dialed Marcus's number in New York. Marcus answered on the 3rd ring. Dad, I was just thinking of calling you. How did the oncologist appointment go? The genuine concern in his voice painfully contrasted with his sister's indifference. I told him everything. Naomi's cancellation, the 10 ride, the missed appointment, the 2 additional months of waiting. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Dad, I need to tell you something I've been meaning to say for weeks, but I didn't know how. Marcus took a deep breath. 3 weeks ago, I came to Atlanta for work. I stopped by Naomi's house to say hello without calling ahead. Trevor was in the backyard talking on the phone. He didn't see me arrive. I heard him say, verbatim, we need to resolve the old man's situation soon. Every month that goes by is money evaporating in unnecessary medicine and medical expenses. When he saw me, he immediately changed the subject and hung up quickly. Something cold settled in my chest. Are you completely sure of what you heard? Absolutely sure, Dad. Those exact words resolve the old man's situation. And when I asked him who he was talking to, he got nervous and said it was a client. But his tone wasn't professional. It was personal. I asked Marcus to also document that conversation in writing with the exact date and details. He agreed immediately. Dad, are you okay? I'm worried about what's happening. I assured him I was fine, that I just needed to understand some things. We agreed to talk every 3 days. Over the next 8 weeks, until my new medical appointment, I became a silent observer of my own life. I didn't confront Naomi. I didn't demand anything from her. I simply observed and documented every interaction. She now visited every 10 or 12 days. Brief, 30-minute visits where she asked general questions about my health but never went into detail. When I mentioned worrying symptoms like intensified pain or weight loss, she diverted the conversation to trivial topics. On June 29th, Sarah's birthday, we traditionally went to the cemetery together. Naomi messaged me saying she couldn't accompany me because Brenda needed help organizing a family dinner. I went alone in a tea and spent 2 hours talking to my wife's grave. Sarah, I don't know where we went wrong with her. Or maybe we didn't go wrong. Maybe he's the one who changed her. On July 12th, it was the wedding celebration for Trevor's cousin. Naomi had invited me a month earlier. 2 days before the event, she called me. Dad, about the wedding on Saturday. There was a problem with the seating. There's no space for you. You know how these things are. Big families complicate the organization. But Marcus, who had also been invited, told me later that there were at least 15 empty seats at the reception. Naomi had simply decided not to take me. I documented everything. Dates, conversations, witnesses. My notebook grew. On July 23rd, I received a call from my bank, Wells Fargo, Buckhead branch. The manager, Ms. Vanessa Reed, had known me for 15 years. Mr. Johnson, excuse me for bothering you. Your daughter, Naomi, came in yesterday asking questions about your accounts. She asked if you had granted power of attorney to anyone, what documentation would be needed for her to help manage your finances due to your health condition. Protocol prevented me from giving her any information, but I thought it appropriate to inform you. I thanked her immensely for her professionalism. Ms. Reed, under no circumstances, authorize any movement in my accounts without my physical presence and direct confirmation. She assured me that would be the case. I also noted this conversation. On August 5th, Marcus flew to Atlanta specifically to visit me. We spent the entire day together. He helped me with groceries, cleaned the apartment, and organized my medications. During dinner, he looked at me seriously. Dad, is there something else? Last week I called Naomi to coordinate your appointment on the 18th. I told her I would be flying in from New York to take you. Do you know what she told me? That it wasn't necessary. That you were probably exaggerating the seriousness of your condition. That at your age, doctors always find something to prescribe and charge for. She talked about my cancer as if it were an invented cold. This information was particularly revealing. Naomi was actively minimizing my diagnosis to her brother, constructing a narrative where I was an exaggerated, hypochondriac elderly man, not a man with a real mortal illness. Marcus, I need you to trust me. Something is happening that I don't fully understand yet, but I will find out. In the meantime, do not confront your sister. Don't tell her we talked about this. It's important. Marcus nodded, although I saw deep worry in his eyes. On August 14th, 4 days before my oncology appointment, Naomi finally showed up at my apartment without warning. She brought Trevor with her. It was the first time in months he had visited me. "Lenny, good to see you. You look thinner. Naomi tells me you've been a little depressed lately." Depressed. That was the word they had chosen. They sat in my living room. Trevor led the conversation while Naomi remained strangely silent. "Lenny, Naomi and I have been thinking. This apartment is too big for just you. The stairs, even though there's an elevator, are still complicated. There are excellent retirement communities for people your age, where you'd have companionship, activities, and constant medical attention." He was suggesting I move to a nursing home. "And what would happen to my apartment?" I asked in a neutral tone. "Well, you could transfer it into Naomi's name. She would maintain it. She'd handle all the expenses and paperwork. You wouldn't have to worry about a thing." Trevor smiled, as if he were offering me a favor. "That's an interesting idea. Let me think about it," I replied calmly. They exchanged satisfied glances. They stayed barely 20 more minutes and left. In my notebook, I wrote, August 14th. Trevor and Naomi propose retirement home and property transfer. The plan is becoming clear. 3 days later, on August 17th, I called an attorney. August 18th, 2023 finally arrived. This time, I didn't depend on anyone. I hired a private medical transport service that picked me up at 8 in the morning. I arrived at Emory University Hospital 40 minutes early. The driver, a professional named Miguel Ortega, helped me all the way to the oncology reception. I paid him $50 and gave him my number in case I needed his services again. The consultation with Dr. Charles Rourke was devastating and revealing at the same time. He was a man in his 50s, bald, with metal-rimmed glasses, and a serious expression that didn't hide the reality behind false optimism. He reviewed my March studies and compared them with the new tests and CT scans I had done the previous week. "Mr. Johnson, I regret to tell you that the tumor has progressed considerably in these 5 months since the initial diagnosis." He put the images side by side on his screen. "In March, we had a localized tumor of approximately 1¼ inches, stage 2A, with no clear evidence of metastasis. Now we are seeing growth up to 1¾ inches with regional lymph node involvement. It is officially advanced stage 2B, borderline with stage 3. He explained with graphs and terms that, with my technical background, I could perfectly understand. The 2-month delay in initial care had allowed cancerous cells to spread to neighboring structures. If we had started treatment in June, when it was originally scheduled, the chances for curative surgery were 65%. Now we are at 42%. The optimal window closed. Dr. Rourke, I need this documented with absolute clarity. My voice was firm. I need detailed reports indicating the exact dates, when the initial diagnosis was, when the first oncology appointment was scheduled, when it was actually performed, and how that lapse affected the prognosis. Can you provide me with that documentation? The doctor looked at me with professional curiosity. Of course, Mr. Johnson, it is your right to have all your complete medical information. Can I prepare a detailed technical report? Is there any specific legal or personal reason? Let's just say I need absolute clarity regarding the consequences of decisions made by third parties, I replied. He nodded understandingly. I'll have it ready in 1 week. In the meantime, we need to start neoadjuvant chemotherapy immediately. The goal is to reduce the tumor before evaluating the possibility of surgery. It's 6 cycles of 21 days each. We start next week, if you accept the protocol. I accepted everything. I signed the consents. I scheduled the first session for August 25th. Dr. Rourke also gave me a 3-page clinical summary describing my current situation, proposed treatment, and statistical prognosis. I guarded those papers as if they were diamonds. Upon leaving the consultation, I immediately called Marcus. He had been anxiously awaiting my call. I explained everything the doctor had said. "Marcus, I need to ask you for something important. I want you to come to Atlanta this weekend. There are matters we need to resolve together. I'll arrive Friday night, Dad. Stay calm." During the trip back home with Miguel, the medical transport driver, I made a decision. I pulled out my phone and searched online for attorneys specializing in family law and estate planning in Atlanta. I found Blackwood and Associates with excellent references in asset protection cases for older individuals. I called from the car itself. An efficient secretary answered. "Blackwood and Associates, good morning." I explained that I needed an urgent consultation about estate planning and possible advice on family financial abuse situations. She offered me an appointment for August 22nd at 11 in the morning with the principal attorney, Mr. Samuel Blackwood. I accepted immediately. I arrived at my apartment near noon. Ellie saw me come in and came down to ask how it went. I briefly told her the prognosis. She put her hands to her mouth. "Oh, Lenny, I'm so sorry. Does Naomi know yet?" I told her I hadn't contacted her yet. Ellie shook her head. "That girl should be here with you. Sarah would be so disappointed to see her like this." That afternoon, Naomi called me, not to ask about the medical consultation, but to comment that she had seen patio furniture on sale and thought I could buy her a set for her deck. "Dad, you don't have a yard, but I could certainly use them. They're only $10,000. You could just transfer the money, and I'll take care of everything." $10,000 for patio furniture. While I had just received confirmation that my cancer had advanced to a more dangerous stage because of the delay she herself caused. "Naomi, this is not a good time for superfluous expenses. I have expensive medical treatments ahead of me," I replied in a neutral voice. There was an uncomfortable silence. "Well, it's just an idea. I thought you'd want to help your daughter." She hung up with noticeable coldness. I noted that conversation too. The pattern was becoming more evident. Minimization of my illness, financial requests, emotional distancing, attempts at asset control. These were not coincidences. It was a strategy. On August 20th, I received an unexpected call from an old engineering colleague, Rob Davis, with whom I had worked on several large projects during the 90s. "Lenny, sorry to call you out of the blue. I ran into your son-in-law, Trevor Hayes, a few days ago at a professional networking event, right?" I confirmed. "Well, there was an awkward moment. He was talking to other financial managers about properties. He mentioned that he would soon have 2 prime properties in Atlanta and Lake Oconee available for possible sale or investment. He said, verbatim, that they were family inheritance that would be liquidated soon. Lenny, you're okay, right?" I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. "I'm perfectly alive and conscious, Robert. Those properties are mine, and they are not for sale or in the process of inheritance because I am still here." Rob let out a low whistle. "I thought it was weird. That's why I called you. Be careful, friend." I thanked him deeply and hung up. Trevor was already marketing my properties publicly. He spoke of my inheritance in the present tense, as if I were already dead or incapacitated. The audacity was astonishing. On August 22nd, at exactly 11 o'clock, I entered the offices of Blackwood and Associates, located near Peachtree Street in Midtown Atlanta. The offices were sober but clearly professional. Dark wood, shelves packed with legal codes, framed diplomas. The receptionist showed me into a large office where Mr. Samuel Blackwood An attorney about 55 years old, with perfectly trimmed gray hair, an impeccable suit, and an analytical gaze, was waiting for me. "Mr. Johnson, welcome. Please have your seat. Tell me what brings you here." His voice was professional, but warm. Over the next hour, I laid out the entire situation with the precision of a technical report. I showed him my notebook with chronological documentation. The canceled June 15th appointment, Ellie's testimony about seeing them that same day, the conversations about the retirement home, the bank call, Robert's comment about Trevor marketing my properties, the constant financial requests, the medical reports showing tumor progression linked to the delay. Everything. Mr. Blackwood took meticulous notes on his computer. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and interlaced his fingers. "Mr. Johnson, what you describe forms a troubling pattern that, legally, we call financial abuse of a vulnerable person. The fact that your son-in-law is publicly talking about liquidating your estate while you are alive, combined with attempts to obtain power of attorney over your finances and the documented medical negligence, builds a solid case." "Medical negligence?" I asked. "Your daughter had a duty of care when she committed to transporting you for urgent oncology treatment. Canceling that obligation for recreational activities, causing documented medical deterioration, can be interpreted as negligence by omission. It's not necessarily criminal, but it is civilly relevant." Mr. Blackwood was direct with the options. First, immediately protect my assets through legal reorganization. Second, establish clear medical directives, naming a trusted representative who was not Naomi. Third, consider formal legal action for damages, if I desired. Before any aggressive legal action, I recommend securing your assets. Can you detail exactly what you own? I pulled out documents I had prepared. Apartment in Buckhead, Atlanta, 1,300 square feet. Title in my name, valued at $450,000 according to a recent appraisal. Lake Oconee House, 850 square feet with land, valued at $250,000. Savings accounts at Wells Fargo with $150,000. Total assets, $850,000 with no debts. Everything acquired with my work as a civil engineer over 42 years. Mr. Blackwood nodded appreciatively. Considerable and clean assets. Now, regarding succession, in the state of Georgia, you have freedom of disposition, unlike some other systems. We can use a combination of a revocable trust and a will to clearly allocate your estate. My recommendation is to allocate the minimal, legally challengeable portion to Naomi and designate Marcus as the recipient of the entire residual estate. He continued, "You planned on leaving half to each, which would be $425,000 each. We can set up a specific bequest in your trust for Naomi of $150,000. This is a clear, definitive amount. Furthermore, we can perform a quitclaim deed transfer of the Lake Oconee house to Marcus now as a gift. That takes $250,000 out of Naomi's reach immediately." I did quick calculations. So Naomi would receive only her specific $150,000 out of an $850,000 total, approximately 1/5 of the total assets, when she probably expected half or more. Exactly. It's the maximum reduction we can implement legally without outright disinheriting her, which often invites litigation. This route is simpler and legally more secure. I accepted all his recommendations. Mr. Blackwood immediately prepared documentation, a new last will and testament, a revocable living trust, gift deeds for the Lake Oconee house, and medical power of attorney naming Marcus as the sole authorized representative for healthcare decisions. We need to go to a closing attorney this week to finalize. Can you do Friday the 25th? I have my first chemotherapy session that day in the morning, but I can do the afternoon. Perfect. I'll coordinate with the attorney and confirm the exact time. Marcus arrived that Friday night, the 22nd, from New York. I picked him up at the airport. When he saw me, his eyes welled up. I had lost almost 25 pounds since March. Dad, you're so thin. I hugged him tight. In the taxi back, I told him everything I had discovered and the steps I was taking with Mr. Blackwood. Marcus listened with an increasingly somber expression. I can't believe my own sister is capable of this. How did we get here? I answered with something I had been reflecting on a lot. I don't think Naomi was born this way. I think Trevor found her weak points: financial insecurity, a desire for status, a need for his mother's approval, and he exploited them. He turned her into someone your mother and I wouldn't recognize. On Saturday the 23rd, Marcus and I spent the day organizing all the necessary documents for the closing. We found the original deeds for both properties, updated bank statements, my birth certificate, and professional licenses. Everything was perfectly filed, because I had always been methodical with important documentation. That afternoon, my phone rang. It was Naomi. Dad, how are you? I haven't heard from you in days. I was at the hospital on the 18th, oncology consultation, I replied simply. Ah, and what did they say? Her tone was that of someone asking about a minor administrative task. The tumor advanced. I lost the optimal treatment window because of the delay. I start chemo on Friday. There was a pause. Well, I'm sure the doctors exaggerate. You look fine, don't you? I did not look fine. I had lost 25 pounds. I had deep, dark circles under my eyes. I got fatigued climbing one flight of stairs. Naomi, Marcus is here with me. He will accompany me to treatment. I said this deliberately to observe her reaction. Marcus came to Atlanta? Why didn't you tell me? There was annoyance in her voice, not fraternal concern. He came to take care of his sick father. He didn't need your authorization. I responded with a coldness she definitely noticed. Naomi stammered something about wanting to visit soon and hung up quickly. Marcus, who had heard my side of the conversation, shook his head. She's nervous. She feels she's losing control. He was right. Every move I made independently, every decision taken without consulting her, was eroding the plan she and Trevor had built. On Sunday the 24th, I did something I hadn't done in months. I went to church at the St. James AME Church, near my house. I'm not especially religious, but Sarah was, and that space always gave me clarity. After the service, I spoke briefly with Pastor Mike Thompson, the minister who had officiated my wife's funeral. I told him in general terms about my medical and family situation. Pastor Mike, a wise man in his 70s, put a hand on my shoulder. Lenny, protecting what you honestly built isn't greed. It's responsibility. And teaching consequences to those who act wrongly, even if they are family, isn't cruelty. It's justice. Sarah would be proud of you for standing up for your dignity. His words gave me a peace I hadn't felt in weeks. Monday the 25th started early. Miguel, the medical transport driver, picked me up at 7:30. Marcus came with me. The first chemotherapy session at Emory Hospital lasted 4 hours. I was connected to an IV, and 3 different medications were administered. Dr. Rourke personally supervised and handed me the detailed report I had requested. 8 technical pages documenting exact dates, tumor progression, lost treatment windows, and a direct correlation between the delay from June to August and the worsening prognosis. Doctor, this document is exactly what I needed. Thank you for your professionalism, I told him as I tucked the report into my briefcase. We left the hospital at 12:30. I felt dizzy and weak from the medication, but mentally alert. At 4 o'clock that afternoon, we had an appointment at the closing attorney's office. Mr. Blackwood was waiting for us at the entrance with 2 assistants carrying folders of documents. The law office was in a stately, early 20th century building. High ceilings, dark furniture. The air of legal solemnity these places have. The closing attorney, a meticulous man of 63 named Robert Sterling, checked my personal documentation. First, my driver's license, birth certificate, and a medical certificate of mental capacity, signed by a psychiatrist, and Mr. Blackwood had coordinated to assess my cognitive competence 3 days earlier. Mr. Johnson, we proceed then with 3 legal acts today. The new trust agreement revoking previous ones, the gift deed of the Lake Oconee property to your son Marcus, and specific health care power of attorney. Do you confirm that these are your decisions, taken freely and without coercion? Mr. Sterling looked directly into my eyes. I absolutely confirm. These are my decisions, taken with full awareness and adequate legal advice. And we signed document after document. The new trust agreement specified that of the total $850,000 in assets, a specific bequest of $150,000 would be given to Naomi Johnson. Marcus Johnson would receive the remainder of the residual estate, approximately $700,000, plus the Lake Oconee property, which was being transferred now. The numbers were clear. She expected to inherit a minimum of $425,000. Now she would receive barely $150,000. The medical power of attorney exclusively named Marcus as the authorized representative for healthcare decisions in case of temporary incapacitation. Naomi had no legal authority over my treatment. Mr. Sterling read every complete document aloud, verified my understanding, and confirmed my will. I signed every page with my characteristic signature. Marcus signed as the recipient of the gift and as the medical power of attorney. Everything was officially registered at 6:15 on the afternoon of Monday, August 25th, 2023. Upon leaving the closing attorney's office, Mr. Blackwood accompanied us for coffee on a nearby patio. Mr. Johnson, your assets are now legally protected. Naomi cannot do absolutely anything to alter these dispositions. Any attempt to challenge the trust would be rejected because we have meticulously documented your full capacity. The next step is up to you. Do you want to take active legal action for the damages caused, or do you prefer simply to maintain the established protection? I considered it carefully. For now, let's keep this confidential. I want to see how their next moves develop. I have a feeling they haven't shown all their cards yet. Mr. Blackwood nodded. Wise, keep me informed of any developments. And, Mr. Johnson, if you'll allow a personal comment. I have handled many cases of family abuse in 30 years of practice. Most victims are paralyzed by denial or emotional pain. You have acted with admirable clarity, speed, and strategy. You are an exceptional man. That night, Marcus and I had a quiet dinner in my apartment. He prepared a light soup because the chemotherapy medication had taken away my appetite. Dad, how do you feel about all this? I know it can't be easy making these decisions about Naomi. I answered honestly. It hurts me deeply what my daughter has become. But the idea of letting her abuse me without consequences hurts more. Your mother taught me that loving doesn't mean tolerating mistreatment. It means setting healthy boundaries. This is tough love, Marcus. It's the last lesson I can teach your sister, that actions have real consequences. On Tuesday the 26th in the morning, I received a call from the accountant who had handled my finances for years, Mr. Albert Paredes. Mr. Johnson, I need to inform you of something sensitive. Yesterday, I received a visit from your son-in-law, Trevor Hayes. He came with printed documents that looked like notarial powers of attorney, although he wouldn't let me examine them closely. He specifically asked about your investments, pension funds, and life insurance policies. He wanted exact amounts, designated beneficiaries, and procedures to expedite transfers in case of cognitive deterioration of the title holder. Those were his exact words. I felt my blood run cold, but I kept my voice calm. Mr. Paredes, those documents are either false or irrelevant. I was at the attorney's office yesterday reorganizing all my legal affairs. Marcus is my sole authorized representative. Under no circumstances provide any information to Trevor Hayes or my daughter Naomi without my physical presence and explicit authorization. Don't worry, Mr. Johnson. I didn't give him any information. In fact, I asked him to leave when he insisted too much, but I felt it was important to warn you. His behavior was aggressive and unprofessional for someone supposedly just looking to help a family member. I thanked him immensely for his loyalty. I hung up and told Marcus immediately. They're desperate. They sense something has changed, but they don't know exactly what. They're going to accelerate their moves. I wasn't wrong. That same afternoon, at 5:20, Naomi showed up at my apartment without warning. She brought Trevor and, surprisingly, Brenda. The three of them came up together. When I opened the door and saw them, I immediately knew they were on a coordinated mission. Dad, we need to talk seriously. Naomi began in a tone intended to be firm, but sounding nervous. They walked in without waiting for a real invitation. Marcus was in the spare room, working on his laptop. He came out when he heard voices. Trevor quickly took the floor. Lenny, we've been very concerned about you. Your health, your ability to handle complex matters, your general well-being. We know you started chemotherapy. Those treatments affect mental clarity and decision-making capacity. It's not your fault. It's pure chemistry. Brenda intervened in a syrupy voice. Mr. Johnson, I went through something similar with my late husband. Oncology treatments are terrible. He needed constant help with everything. That's why I'm here, to support Naomi during this difficult time for the family. Marcus and I exchanged glances. Brenda's presence was revealing. She was there as a witness to validate what was coming next. Naomi pulled papers from her purse. Dad, we prepared general power of attorney documents. It's to make your life easier. I'll take care of paying bills, managing properties, coordinating with doctors, everything. You just have to concentrate on recovering. She extended the papers toward me. I took them and began to read them slowly, even though I already knew what they contained. They were extremely broad powers: authorization to sell properties, empty bank accounts, sign contracts in my name, make medical decisions, total access to my assets. Basically, they turned me into a legal puppet, and her into the one pulling the strings. These documents give you absolute control over everything I own, I commented in a quiet voice, pointing to specific clauses. My technical background had taught me to read contracts meticulously. Well, it's for protection. For your own good, Trevor quickly responded. Imagine something happens to you during treatment. Someone has to be able to act fast. I placed the papers on the coffee table. And why not Marcus? He's my son, too. Naomi and Trevor visibly tensed up. Marcus lives in New York. He can't be here regularly. I'm in Atlanta, available always, Naomi argued, even though the last few months had demonstrated the exact opposite. Interesting, because Marcus has been more present in the last 2 weeks than you have in the last 6 months, I said, in a perfectly neutral tone. Trevor changed tactics. Lenny, let's be practical. You are 67, with advanced cancer and aggressive treatment ahead. You need professional help to manage a considerable estate. I work in financial management. I can optimize your resources, ensure the money yields returns, and protect your legacy. It's my specialty. There it was, the true objective, finally verbalized without disguise. Access to my money under the pretext of professional management. I have a question, I said, leaning forward. Why were you at my accountant's offices last Thursday, asking about my investments and insurance policies without my knowledge or authorization? The silence was absolute. Trevor paled. Naomi looked at her husband with an expression of panic. Brenda cleared her throat uncomfortably. I was just making preliminary inquiries to be able to advise you better, Trevor stammered. And why, 3 weeks ago, did you tell Robert Davis that you would soon have 2 prime properties in Atlanta and Lake Oconee available for inheritance liquidation? Textual words, according to a direct witness? Now Naomi also paled. Trevor opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Marcus got up from his chair and stood beside me. Do you want me to tell you what's really going on here? You two planned this for months. Canceling Dad's medical appointment wasn't neglect. It was deliberate sabotage to deteriorate his health. You wanted him to get worse, to depend on you, to sign papers like these when he was weak and scared. Then you would take everything and probably put him in some retirement home, where he couldn't interfere. That's ridiculous, Marcus. How dare you accuse your own sister of something so horrible? Naomi shouted, but her voice trembled. I walked to my desk and took out my notebook. I opened it to the first page. June 15th, 2023. Naomi cancels transportation for urgent oncology consultation to take Brenda to the spa. Testimony from neighbor Ellie Jenkins. She saw both of them passing in front of this building at 9:05 in the morning, laughing, while I was in a tea desperately trying to get to the hospital on time. I lost the appointment. The tumor advanced. I have medical reports that document the progression directly attributable to that 2-month delay. I flipped pages. July 23rd. Bank manager informs me Naomi was asking how to gain control over my accounts. August 14th. Trevor and Naomi suggest a retirement home and transfer of my apartment. August 20th. Engineer colleague tells me Trevor is publicly marketing my properties as imminent inheritance. Every date, every documented fact fell upon them like hammer blows. Trevor tried to recover his posture. All that is misunderstanding. Conversations taken out of context. You're paranoid from the medication, Lenny. It's a known side effect of chemotherapy. Anxiety, suspicion. You need psychological help in addition to oncology. There was the next phase of their strategy. To discredit me as mentally unstable. To turn my lucidity into a symptom of illness. I walked to my briefcase and pulled out documents, carefully organized in clear folders. Here is the complete report from Dr. Charles Rourke, oncologist at Emory Hospital. 8 pages detailing precise dates, tumor evolution, and direct correlation between the treatment delay and the worsening prognosis. It includes his textual words. The optimal therapeutic window was lost due to the lapse between June and August. I placed another folder on the table. Here are notarized declarations from 3 witnesses. Ellie Jenkins, who saw them on June 15th. Robert Davis, regarding your public comments marketing my properties. And the Wells Fargo manager, regarding Naomi's inappropriate inquiries. Third folder. Certificate of full mental capacity. Signed by Dr. Vincent Ortiz, licensed psychiatrist. Performed 5 days ago. It confirms that I maintain all my cognitive faculties intact. Perfect memory. preserved logical reasoning, full autonomous decision-making capacity, zero evidence of mental deterioration. Trevor's face had gone from pale to ash. Naomi looked at the documents as if they were venomous snakes. But I wasn't finished. I pulled out a large, sealed envelope, and finally, I opened it with deliberate calm. Notarial deeds dated yesterday, August 25th, 2023, before the closing attorney, Mr. Robert Sterling. Document 1. New trust agreement revoking any previous dispositions. Of my total $850,000 in assets, Naomi will receive only her specific legal bequest of $150,000. Marcus will receive the residual $700,000 plus the Lake Oconee property. Document 2. Gift deed of the Lake Oconee house to Marcus, effective immediately. Document 3. Exclusive medical power of attorney granted to Marcus as the sole authorized representative for healthcare decisions. The silence that followed was deafening. Naomi stood up, trembling. "What did you do, Dad? You can't do this. I'm your daughter. I took care of you." My voice remained calm, but every word carried the weight of months of accumulated pain. "You took care of me until you married Trevor. After that, I became a financial inconvenience, a problem to solve, an inheritance to expedite. You canceled my oncology treatment for a spa day. You drove past my house laughing while I suffered in a taxi. You minimized my cancer to your brother. You tried to gain control of my finances behind my back. And now, you come here with papers to legally strip me of everything I built over 42 years of honest work." Naomi began to cry, but they were tears of rage and frustration, not genuine remorse. "This is Marcus's fault. He manipulated you. He poisoned you against me. Marcus didn't have to do anything. Your own actions spoke for you. Every decision, every word, every priority you chose showed me exactly who you are now." Trevor, recovering some of his initial arrogance, tried one last argument. "This won't stand, Lenny. Those documents can be challenged. Undue influence by Marcus, diminished capacity due to illness. We have lawyers, too." Marcus let out a humorless laugh. "Try it. We have 3 independent medical evaluations confirming Dad's full capacity. We have documentation of 6 months of your manipulation attempts. We have witnesses. We have recordings." That caught their immediate attention. "Recordings?" I pulled out my cell phone. "In Georgia, it is completely legal to record conversations one participates in without informing the other party. I have registered 4 phone conversations with Naomi where she minimizes my illness, inappropriately requests money, or makes revealing comments about priorities, all admissible as legal evidence." Brenda, who had remained silent throughout the exchange, finally spoke. "Naomi, I think we should go. This has gotten out of hand." There was real panic in her voice. She was undoubtedly calculating how her participation as a witness in this farce might affect her legally or socially. Naomi turned to her with fury. "You said this would work. You said we just needed to pressure him when he was weak from the chemo, that he would sign anything." There was the direct confession that Brenda not only knew about the plan, but had advised on the timing and strategy. Marcus immediately pulled his own phone from his pocket. He had been recording the entire conversation since they arrived. Trevor noticed the gesture, and his expression turned from arrogance to pure terror. "Naomi, shut up. Don't say anything else. We're leaving now." But Naomi was in full emotional collapse. "It's not fair. That money should be mine. I worked at taking care of you after Mom died. I deserve it." "You will receive exactly what you deserve, your legal bequest, and nothing more," I replied with absolute firmness. "And consider that I showed mercy. I could have initiated legal proceedings for deliberate medical negligence, attempted financial fraud, and abuse of a vulnerable person. I could have completely disinherited you, alleging mistreatment, which is perfectly documented. I didn't do it because, despite everything, you are still my daughter, and some part of me remembers the girl you were before greed corrupted you. I walked up to her, looking her directly in the eyes. But listen to me very well, Naomi. From this moment on, you have no access to my life, my decisions, or my assets beyond what is strictly legal. When I die, you will receive a check for $150,000. That will be the last time anything of mine reaches your hands. There will be no funeral you can attend, because I will leave specific instructions. There will be no reconciliation on my deathbed. There will be no easy forgiveness or second chance. This is your consequence. Live with it. Naomi ran out of the apartment, sobbing. Trevor followed her after giving me a look of pure hatred. Brenda stood still in my living room, visibly uncomfortable, not knowing whether to follow her daughter-in-law or attempt some kind of justification. I looked at her with a neutral expression. Mrs. Hayes, I suggest you very carefully reconsider your association with this matter. You are documented as an active participant in an attempt to defraud a sick person. That has legal and social ramifications. For your own good, distance yourself immediately. She left quickly, without saying a word, clearly terrified of the consequences she was only beginning to understand. When the door closed, Marcus and I remained silent for several minutes. Finally, he spoke. I don't have words. You were relentless, but fair. Mom would have been proud. His eyes glistened with tears. I sat down heavily on the sofa. The adrenaline from the confrontation began to dissipate, leaving me exhausted. I felt no pleasure doing that, Marcus. I felt deep sadness, but it was necessary. If I had shown weakness or out, they would have kept pushing, manipulating, looking for cracks. The only way to stop them was to show absolute force. That night, I slept better than I had in months, despite everything. There was clarity. Now the cards were on the table. There was no more uncertainty or false hope that everything was a misunderstanding. The following days brought exactly the consequences I had anticipated. On Wednesday, the 27th, I received an email from Naomi and Trevor's legal firm, Hayes, Gonzalez and Associates, a formal letter announcing their intention to challenge the trust due to undue influence by third parties and diminished capacity of the testator, exactly what Trevor had threatened. I immediately forwarded the email to Mr. Blackwood. His response came in less than 2 hours. We expected this. We have ironclad documentation. I will prepare a formal response, rejecting all allegations and warning of the consequences of frivolous litigation. Rest easy. On Thursday the 28th, Ellie came up to visit me. Lenny, I saw Naomi at the grocery store this morning. I tried to say hello, and she literally turned her back on me. Then I heard her telling someone else that you had lost your mind from the medication and that Marcus had manipulated you to steal her inheritance. She's spreading lies. I thanked her for informing me. Ellie, if anyone asks, you are a registered witness of what you saw on June 15th. The truth is on our side. Let her dig her own social grave. And that was exactly what happened. The Buckhead community, especially among the older people who had known me for decades, began to talk. The word spread about a daughter who had canceled her father's oncology transport to take her mother-in-law to the spa. The details leaked. The tumor advancing. The attempts at financial appropriation. The false documents. Atlanta is a huge city, but the residential neighborhoods maintain that small-town dynamic where reputations matter. Pastor Mike Thompson called me on Friday the 29th. Lenny, I wanted you to know that Naomi came to the church yesterday, demanding that I talk to you, that I mediate the terrible injustice Marcus and you were doing to her. I explained that I couldn't intervene without knowing all the facts from both sides. She left furious, accusing me of being bought off. I thought you should know. Thank you, Pastor. I'm sorry they dragged you into this. Don't apologize. It showed me exactly who she is now, and it confirms you made the right decisions. On Saturday the 30th, Marcus had to return to New York for work commitments. Before he left, we organized everything for the coming weeks. Chemotherapy calendar, contracted medical transport service, private nurse for home visits twice a week, and a system of daily video calls for monitoring. He also set up a system where I could scan and send him any suspicious document immediately. Dad, if Naomi or Trevor try to contact you again, don't respond without witnesses or a recording, and notify me immediately. I hugged him tight. I had lost a daughter, but the son I had left was worth 1,000. On Monday, September 1st, a certified letter arrived from Hayes Gonzalez and Associates, formally challenging the trust. Mr. Blackwood responded on Tuesday the 2nd with a 22-page legal document, demolishing every argument, multiple psychiatric evaluations, a documented chronology of manipulation attempts, notarized testimonies, legal recordings, and notarial certifications of capacity. Furthermore, he formally warned that continuing with frivolous litigation would result in a counterclaim for judicial harassment and a demand for legal costs. Naomi's legal firm never wrote back. On Thursday, September 4th, during my second chemotherapy session, I received a call from an unknown number. I answered with the speakerphone activated. It was Brenda. Mr. Johnson, it's Brenda. Please don't hang up. Her voice sounded desperate. I need to talk to you. Naomi and Trevor have completely cut me off. They say I ruined everything by talking too much. My own family is blaming me for something they planned. I'm suffering terrible social consequences. My club friends are avoiding me. My son is furious with me. Please, you have to help me clarify that I was just trying to support my daughter-in-law. The irony was almost comical. She had actively participated in a plan to defraud me. And now that the plan had blown up, she wanted me to rescue her from the consequences. Mrs. Hayes, you came to my house as a witness to validate fraudulent documents. You advised on the timing to pressure me when I was vulnerable from chemotherapy. Your own words, confessed by Naomi, are recorded. I cannot help you because you chose to actively participate in a morally repugnant and legally questionable act. The consequences you face are proportional to your actions. Learn from them. I hung up. I blocked her number. Dr. Rourke, who had heard part of the conversation while checking my vital signs, shook his head. Mr. Johnson, in 30 years of treating oncology patients, I've seen too many stories of relatives taking advantage of vulnerability, but I've never seen anyone defend themselves with such strategic clarity as you. It's admirable. Doctor, 42 years of solving engineering problems taught me that problems don't disappear by ignoring them. You face them with method, data, and firm decisions. September passed between chemotherapy sessions, manageable side effects, and a strange calm after the storm of confrontation. Marcus came every 2 weekends from New York. We had established a functional routine, daily video calls at 9 at night, digitally shared medical reports, coordination with Dr. Rourke. My body was fighting cancer and medication simultaneously, but my mind remained clear and focused. On Tuesday, September 19th, I received an unexpected visit from my former project partner, Javier Medina, a retired engineer with whom I had built 2 major bridges in the 90s. Lenny, I came because Robert told me about your situation. I wanted to see you personally. We spent the afternoon reminiscing about old projects, technical challenges overcome, and construction site anecdotes. He didn't mention Naomi until he was about to leave. Lenny, I also came because I saw Trevor last week at an investor meeting. He was trying to secure financing for a real estate project using family properties in the process of acquisition as collateral. Several serious investors withdrew when they investigated and discovered that those properties are still legally in your name and that there's documented family conflict. His professional reputation is destroyed. No one wants to associate him with someone who tries to market assets they don't own. That information was revealing. Trevor's plan wasn't just to steal my assets. It was to use them as leverage for his own businesses, even before legally owning them. The greed had been deeper than I imagined. On September 26th, during my fourth chemotherapy session, Dr. Rourke reviewed recent tests with a cautiously optimistic expression. "Mr. Johnson, your tumor markers are descending. The tumor has reduced from 1¾ inches to 1½ inches. The chemotherapy is working. If this trend continues, we could consider surgery in December or January." It was the first genuinely good news in months. I called Marcus immediately afterward. He yelled with joy on the other end of the phone. "Dad, you're doing it. Your body is responding." His happiness filled me with an energy the medication couldn't provide. October arrived with cooler temperatures and visible changes in my situation. Naomi and Trevor's story had become common knowledge in certain Atlanta circles. On October 3rd, Miss Reed from the bank called me. "Mr. Johnson, I thought you'd be interested to know that your daughter closed her account with us. She came in very upset, demanded to transfer everything to another bank. She said we were disloyal for not giving her information about your finances." It was a rather unpleasant scene that other customers witnessed. On October 9th, Ellie told me she had seen Naomi and Trevor put their house up for sale. "There's a huge realty sign in the front yard. Looks like they're moving. Maybe it's better for everyone. A new beginning somewhere else, where people don't know the story." On October 15th, I completed my 6th and final cycle of chemotherapy. Dr. Rourke ordered new complete CT scans to evaluate the total treatment response. The results arrived on the 22nd. The tumor had reduced to just over 1 inch, within parameters considered surgical. The lymph nodes showed a significant reduction in metastatic activity. "Mr. Johnson, you are officially in partial remission. We will schedule surgery for January of 2024. The chances of complete resection are now 72%. You've won this battle." Dr. Rourke shook my hand with genuine firmness. When I left the hospital that day, I stopped in the parking lot. I looked at the clear, bright blue October sky. I thought about Sarah. I thought about the 6 months that had passed since that June 15th when Naomi canceled my ride. I thought about everything I had lost and everything I had gained. I had lost the illusion of having a daughter who loved me unconditionally, but I had gained clarity about who she truly was. I had lost an optimal therapeutic window, but I had gained the determination to fight with all my might. I had lost part of my assets in strategic transfers, but I had protected my legacy from greedy hands. On October 26th, Marcus flew to Atlanta to stay for a full week, celebrating the good medical news. We cooked together, watched old movies, and organized all my tax and medical documents. One evening, as we were making coffee, the doorbell rang. It was a messenger with a certified letter. I opened it. It was from a different law firm than Naomi's, Ramirez and Associates. The letter formally informed me that Naomi Johnson and Trevor Hayes had initiated divorce proceedings. As part of the proceedings, Naomi formally requested an advance on her expected inheritance to finance her separation situation. Basically, she wanted me to give her money now, instead of waiting for my death. Marcus read the letter over my shoulder and let out a bitter laugh. "This can't be real. After everything that happened, she has the nerve to ask you for money." I showed Mr. Blackwood the letter via video call that same afternoon. He shook his head. A future inheritance is not enforceable until the testator passes away, unless the testator voluntarily decides to advance it. You have no legal obligation to respond to this request. In fact, I recommend ignoring it completely. It is a desperate attempt with no legal basis. I followed his advice. I did not respond. On October 31st, the last day of the month, I received a call from a private number. I hesitated but answered. It was Naomi. Her voice sounded broken, tired. "Dad, please, I need to talk to you. Trevor left me. He blames me for everything. I lost my house. My friends abandoned me. Brenda won't speak to me. I'm alone. Please, Dad, I'm your daughter." I felt a pang of pain, but I also remembered June 15th. I remembered Brenda has priority. I remembered every moment of calculated coldness. "Naomi, you are my daughter biologically, but real daughters don't leave their fathers to die for financial convenience. You reap what you sow. Learn to live with it." I hung up. April of 2024. 10 months have passed since that June 15th that changed everything. I am sitting on the balcony of my Buckhead apartment, drinking coffee on a sunny spring morning. The air smells of flowers from the neighboring gardens. I can hear children playing in the nearby park. Life goes on. The surgery was performed on January 17th, 5 hours in the operating room. Dr. Rourke and his team achieved complete resection of the tumor with clean margins. The lymph nodes removed showed minimal residual cancerous cells, but nothing that compromised the prognosis. I left surgery weakened but victorious. Marcus was in the waiting room for all those hours. Recovery was slow. 6 weeks of almost absolute rest, severe dietary restrictions, and pain controlled with medication. But every day I felt a little stronger. By March, I was walking 30 minutes daily. In early April, I resumed normal activities with some minor restrictions. On March 23rd, I had my first post-surgical oncology checkup, full lab work, control CT scans. Dr. Rourke reviewed the results with a genuine smile. "Mr. Johnson, no evidence of active disease. You are officially in complete remission. Semi-annual follow-up for 5 years. But the prognosis is excellent. You won this war." When I got home after that consultation, the first thing I did was visit the cemetery where Sarah rests. I sat by her tombstone, as I did regularly. I did it, my love. I won, and I overcame something perhaps more difficult, the betrayal of our own daughter. I know it would hurt you to see her like this. It hurts me too. But I did the right thing. I set boundaries. I taught consequences, as you taught me to do. Naomi tried to contact me 17 times during these 10 months. Calls, texts, emails, and letters sent by postal mail. At first they were demanding, then supplicating, finally desperate. I didn't respond to any. Marcus informed me that she finally found a job as an administrator in a mid-sized company. She rents a small apartment on the outskirts of Atlanta. She lives modestly. Her divorce from Trevor was finalized in February. He moved to Miami, trying to restart his professional career far from the scandal. Brenda, according to Ellie, who maintains broad social connections, suffered severe isolation in her circle. Her participation in the attempted fraud against a man with cancer made her a social pariah. Her own son kept his distance for months. She now lives quietly, but her reputation never fully recovered. On April 9th, I received a visit from Mr. Blackwood. He came to review annual documentation, but also to share news. "Mr. Johnson, I thought you'd be interested to know that the firm representing your daughter permanently closed the case in March. There will be no further attempts to challenge the trust. Furthermore, I verified public records. Naomi is not listed as a creditor or plaintiff in any process against you. Everything is legally closed. I thanked him for his extraordinary services during these difficult months. Mr. Blackwood, without your strategic advice, I could have lost everything. You gave me the tools to protect myself. He smiled. Mr. Johnson, I only provided the legal framework. You provided the mental clarity, the meticulous documentation, and the determination to see this through to the end. That was all yours. On April 14th, Sarah's birthday, I went to the cemetery early in the morning. I brought her favorite flowers, white roses. As I placed them, I heard steps behind me. I turned around. It was Naomi. She looked different, thinner, shorter hair, simple clothes, without the elaborate makeup and jewelry she used to wear. She had deep dark circles under her eyes and an expression of absolute defeat. Dad, I knew you would come today. It's Mom's birthday. I needed to see you. Her voice trembled. I didn't say anything. I simply looked at her. I've had 10 months to think about everything I did, about who I became, about how I disappointed Mom, you, and myself. Tears ran down her cheeks. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't deserve forgiveness, but I needed you to know that I understand now. I understand the damage I caused. I understand that I lost the best father anyone could have for stupid greed and the manipulation of someone who never truly loved me. Her voice broke. How could I cancel your oncology appointment for a spa day? Dad, I almost killed you. And I'll have to live with that for the rest of my life. Finally, I spoke, my voice calm but firm. Naomi, I'm glad you're in therapy. I'm glad you recognize what you did, but recognition does not equal restoration. Some things, once broken, cannot be fully repaired. You can learn, grow, and become a better person. I hope you do. But our relationship as father and daughter died on June 15th, 2023, when you said, Brenda has priority. You can never forgive me, she whispered. Perhaps one day I can forgive you in my heart, but that doesn't mean I will allow you back into my life. Forgiveness does not require the restoration of trust, and the trust you destroyed is irreplaceable. You will live your life, I will live mine. When I die, you will receive your legal bequest. That will be our last interaction. I turned back to Sarah's grave, turning my back on Naomi. I heard her sobs for a few moments, then her steps, slowly walking away. If you liked this story, support us with a like, subscribe to the channel, and leave your opinions in the comments. To hear the next story, click on the box that appears on the left. Thank you for joining us.